John likes tech and lives in Indiana, you know. Kevin likes the Dodgers and talks on the radio. John plays games on Xbox and on his Nintendo, while Kevin runs around LA with his mustachio. It's the Lack of Genius podcast, in your ear holes at last. They don't know they're Mars from Venus, that's why it's the Lack of Genius podcast. Starting with a howl. Hey, John.
Yeah. Hey. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing good. I thought a howl would be... That was a pretty good howl, too, wasn't it?
It was. Wasn't there a radio host back in the day that was like Howlin' Jack or something like that?
Wolfman Jack. Yeah,
Wolfman
Jack. Yeah, we're howling because... Well, I guess I'm howling for a couple of reasons. One, my dogs are howling in the background right now, and we figured it might be appropriate for them to continue howling because we are doing an episode on where the wild things are. Yay! And we divided it into two different things, right, John?
Yep, the book and movie.
Yeah, so John's going to quiz me on the book, and I am quizzing him on the movie. I know the book came out first, but I'm going to just keep talking about the film, because it's a film that I love and that sometimes I forget how much I love. Like, I know I've mentioned a lot of different movies as being one of my favorite movies of all time, including like Cool Runnings and Happy Gilmore and Mighty Ducks. And those are all, I would stand by those. Like, those are all obviously kind of silly movies, nostalgic movies.
Right.
As an adult, like Where the Wild Things Are is every time I watch it, I get like emotional. I get sucked into it. It's as I learned in some of my research, and I guess I already knew, it's a kind of a polarizing movie because people wanted it to be more child friendly and people thought it was too dark. But regardless of your stance on that part of it, I think visually, when you look at this movie, you can't deny how beautiful it is and how, I have tons of stuff to talk about. I'll try not to get too carried away. But my favorite thing about it, I think, is that it does such a great job of tapping into sort of the confusion of being a child sometimes, and the what's right, what's wrong, why are adults like this, why isn't life is unfair. I don't know, you can see I'm even confused about how to say it, but it just taps into that feeling. And I don't know, I think I have a pretty strong inner child, so I think that's why this movie really taps into me. I just really connect with it a lot.
That's good. And
then John, you're doing the book. I don't know if you have the same kind of emotional connection to the book that I have to the movie, but what is your experience with the book?
I mean, I've had it since I was a kid, and the book came out, 20 some years before we were even born. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it had already been around for a long time. The book came out in the mid 60s. It was written and illustrated by Maurice Sendak, who his parents, he grew up Jewish. His parents came over from, I think it was Poland, and he had family die in the Holocaust and everything. Wow. Like he was a early teen when that was all going on.
Wow.
So part of that probably plays into it.
Yeah.
Well, and the characters, like the wild things, were all drawn kind of based off of caricatures of his aunts and uncles when they would come over on like Sunday afternoons and stuff. Well,
there's so much that you just said that I had no idea about, including the Holocaust surviving and like, this book, especially the movie, but the book, which I did not go back and read. I don't know the last time I've read it.
I don't know either.
But this idea of sort of escaping into an imaginary world, that's a survival mechanism. And for someone
let me make sure you understood what I was saying. He didn't actually go through the Holocaust, but he had family that did.
Got it. Okay.
His family was already over here in the States when that was happening, but
I see. But yeah,
he was alive during that time.
Yeah, so for him to know that his family was going through that, I see. So that is a little bit of a different experience, but even still, like, I think there's something relatable for any child to sort of want to escape reality and go down this dream world. And then, so the aunts and uncles thing is so interesting too, because I know that the characters in the movie, they obviously had to be expanded on, but there is a character, Ira and Judith, they're a couple, and they sort of represent they sort of represent parents, but to me, they're almost more like aunts and uncles. So that is pretty ironic. And it does make me wonder because Maurice Sendak, the author, was a major part of the consulting on the film with Spike Jonze, the director. So maybe they deliberately sort of gave it that aunt-uncle vibe because that's what his intent was.
It's possible.
All right. Well, we got some tidying up to do. So should we get into that?
Yeah.
Tidy up before we go any further with the show. Tidy up before we go fix our mistakes tonight. I wanna get it right. Tidy up.
I'm sort of going to hijack this tidy up section, which I guess isn't that uncommon from what I do all the time because sometimes I don't shut up. But as opposed to tidying something up, I'm more going to recall something from a previous episode and share a story with you all. The curling and bobsled episode, as you know, if you listened, I was really moving by the idea of curling. So I went and I found a curling club, Southern California Curling Center, and I got two friends of mine and we registered and we went to an amazing 90-minute lesson for only $30, which I'd highly recommend if you're in Southern California. So I go with some friends. The three of us sign up. We're in a group of 8. We learn how to curl. As of the release of this episode, I've posted things that I'm talking about onto social media, so you can go and see what I'm talking about. I had a blast, right? I feel like I'm bragging, but I literally had the 2 best shots of the night. And a lot of it is luck, but I will say that I did try to get it near the freaking bullseye. It was so much fun. There was a moment before we had started, we were on the ice, and these 4 people walk in, and they're wearing American flag jumpsuits. And I remember because I turned to my friend and I said, oh, now it's time to start feeling judged. And what I meant by that is I thought these guys were like a team and part of a league, and this was the thing that they did. They always showed up in these uniforms. Turns out they were just there getting a lesson. I kind of glanced over and realized, okay, this is not league play. They're just getting their lesson. They were 2 lanes over from us, and it was a good time. So I go home, and then yesterday I'm like, I'm gonna post about this on the Lack of Genius podcast Instagram page. And when I go to the Southern California Curling Center and I look that up, I see, you may not know this name right off the bat. Her name is Courtney. Her Instagram handle is Courtney with a K. I know exactly who this is. There's a picture of her wearing a Team USA jumping outfit on ice at the Southern California Curling Center. I'm like, no way. Now, Courtney with a K, she is the wife of Dodger Justin Turner. If you don't know that name, most people I found know that is the guy on the Dodgers with the red beard and the long red hair. And people know him instantly if you follow baseball, even peripherally. Yes, what you're thinking is right. Justin Turner and his wife, Courtney, were 2 lanes over from me for an hour and a half curling, and I had no idea. And I'm a huge Dodger fan, as you know if you listen to this podcast. And Justin Turner is like the heart and soul of the Dodgers. He is him and Clayton Kershaw are essentially the captains of the team. And I lost it, man. There are pictures that you'll see if you go to the Instagram right now where I'm technically curling with Justin Turner. We're both simultaneously curling, just 2 lanes apart.
I mean, I feel like we need to take your Dodger fan credentials away a little bit because you didn't know it was him.
Now, here, in my defense, and maybe you're wondering, like, how did you not recognize a red beard? He had a mask on the whole time. He was wearing a hat. He does not have long hair right now. That or it was in a ponytail under his hat. And it's funny now because when I look at the pictures and I zoom in, I'm like, oh my God, that's so him. But I wasn't going and looking people in the eye. And the ironic thing, too, is that when I'm out in public, I tend to be pretty social. And if I saw a group of people like that and had a chance to talk to them, I 100% would have said something like sweet onesies, or like, and I 100% would have talked to them if I had the opportunity, but our paths never crossed just because we were 2 lanes apart getting our lessons. So like I said, I'm very excited about that this happened. I love that I'm able to tell this story, but it hurts that I was that close Because I think we would have been friends. I think we would have gotten along fine. We both like baseball. We both like curling. We both like the Dodgers. So, my goodness, there's my swing
you
and
lost,
miss.
You lost us the chance of having a professional baseball player on the podcast.
I know. Can you? And I did slide into his DMs from the Lack of Genius podcast. I sent him pictures of, look, there's us curling together. And I thought, this is really going to stand out. But I realized he probably gets stuff like that all the time. Mm-hmm. Yes, this is an exciting experience for me, but this is not a unique experience for him. He gets people who are like, look, there's you in the background of my photo all the time, I'm sure.
It's time to take a quiz or two. Lack of Genius podcast doing this for you. You may fail, but it ain't no lie, baby, it's quiz time. Don't really want this quiz to be tough. I just want to pass one cause I failed enough. It might sound crazy, but it ain't no lie, baby, it's quiz time.
It's going to be a long time till I'm over the Justin Turner thing, I'm going to be honest. But that's the last time I'll mention it, except for when I mention it inevitably later in this show.
Right.
Where the Wild Things Are is what we're transitioning to now.
Yeah, indeed.
And because the book came out first, John will ask the first question.
Yep.
So let's do some learning about the book, shall we?
We shall.
All right.
So I tried to find more current data on this, but I couldn't. So we're looking at something from 13 years ago.
Okay.
But as of 2009, which I think is the same year as when the movie came out.
It is, yeah.
How many copies of the book have been sold? 9 million, 19 million, 29 million, or 39 million?
Wow, good little range there. And it does, you're right, that is the year the movie came out. I do wonder if after 2009 book sales, I would guess they probably went up.
Yeah, I couldn't really find anything about one way or the other.
Yeah, but nearly 40 years later, or maybe more than 40 years later, how many copies of the book sold? 9 million, 19 million, 29 million, or 39 million. Mm-hmm. I don't really know what good book number sales are, but man, I'm going to say that it sold... I'm going to pick 29 million. I'm growling like a wild thing. I was going to pick 39. I'm going to choose 29. Oh...
19.
19. Oh, wow.
19
okay.
million.
All right. Well,
yeah, I mean, and that's as of 2009. So, I mean, with the movie that came out and everything, it's possible it's much higher than that now.
Yeah.
I would hope it's much higher than that now, since
that
was 13 years ago. But roughly, over 19 million copies as of 2009, with 10 million of those being in the United States alone.
Okay, got it. Wow. Do you have any questions going into like the storyline of the book, the quote unquote storyline,
No.
or like just as if somebody's totally clueless? And again, I didn't go back and read the book, but my understanding is that Max is the main character. He's dresses in this white wolf costume, and he goes to bed without dinner one night
because he did something bad.
Something bad, yes, and then kind of drifts away into this dream world. His room becomes this jungle, this wild thing area, and that's essentially what happens in the book. In the movie, he runs away from home after doing something bad, gets in a boat, which in the book, I believe there's a boat that takes him to this dream world. And in this one, he physically gets in a boat and then goes off to where the wild things are and then takes the boat home. And it's sort of a mystery in the movie. It's never really said whether he actually ran away and got in this boat. And what I think he did actually run away, but where did he go? We don't know exactly. Maybe he really went to this amazing place. So anyways, just as a brief sort of, those are the big differences. But you ready for your first question on the film?
I am.
So all the characters were voiced by actors, obviously. Which of the following actors did not provide a voice for a character in Where the Wild Things Are? James Gandolfini, Julianne Moore, Forrest Whitaker, or Catherine O'Hara, who did not provide a voice?
Yeah, I mean, and I know when you and I were talking about this initially, I said I've never seen the movie, and I still haven't.
Oh, I missed that, man. I missed that.
No,
I
it's
thought
okay.
So, do you know any of these for sure that are in the movie?
No.
So this is just a dartboard for you. You have no idea.
Oh yeah.
I am proving your lack of genius, so that's good.
Yep.
And again, it's James Gandolfini, Julianne Moore, Forrest Whitaker, Catherine O'Hara.
I'm just gonna go with Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara, and you know who that is, right?
I think so.
She's the mom on Home Alone. That's her most famous role,
Right.
and then she's in all of the fun mockumentary style movies. And most recently, what's the huge TV show she's on that I can't think of the name of? Oh, that's embarrassing. It'll come to me, where they live in a hotel and they now I got to look it up. Okay, but you're gonna choose Catherine O'Hara.
Yep.
All right, John, that is incorrect.
Oh.
Sorry. The correct answer is Julianne Moore. She is not in. Her voice is not provided. I can't believe this isn't popping up immediately. I'm so embarrassed that I can't think of the name of the show because it's hugely popular. Oh yeah, she was also in Beetlejuice. Why is this taking so long to find? People at home are yelling it. Okay, really? How do I not see the title yet? Wow, she was in 6 Feet Under? That's good to know. This part will be edited out. Why is it not?
Well,
yeah, maybe not.
Schitt's Creek?
Schitt's Creek. Thank you, God. Schitt's Creek. Have you ever seen Schitt's Creek?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
it's on my list of things to watch, but
it's been a joy to see Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara come back together because they've been in so many things together. So yeah, as my dogs continue to howl in the background, James Gandolfini provides the voice of the main character, Carol. And then Forrest Whitaker plays Ira. And then his girlfriend is played by Catherine O'Hara, Judith. And even though a lot of people don't know this name, Lauren Ambrose is one of my favorite voices in this because she plays Claire in the show 6 Feet Under, which is one of my favorite all-time shows. And her voice is so perfect for the part. And even Spike Jonze, who is the director, provides voices for Bob and Terry, which if you've seen the film, you know, are two little owls, spoiler alert. And they literally pretty much say nothing. They literally don't, they make noises, but that is Spike Jonze's little Easter egg that he provides the voice for those silly little owls. So there you go. So we're both 0 for 1.
Yeah, we are.
All right, go us. Let's see number 2 for the book, Where the Wild Things Are.
And it is a true or false.
Yes.
And it's an easy one. True or false? The book has been banned.
Wow. I think this is true, but I don't know why. And I just feel like I've heard this, and I'm kind of hoping it's true because I would very much like to hear why. So I'm just going to choose true and see what happens. All right. Yeah, what's this all about?
Basically, a lot of people were complaining originally when it came out in the mid-'60s because parents and adults found it problematic that Max was punished by being sent to bed without dinner.
Oh, you're like starving a kid.
Yeah. And, you know, some people also, you know, the supernatural themes and stuff. I mean, in fact, there was a column in the Ladies' Home Journal in 1969 that deemed the book psychologically damaging for 3 and 4-year-olds.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wait till she sees what 3 and 4-year-olds are seeing in the year 2022, because it's far worse than a kid going to bed without dinner. That is what is so tricky about doing anything in the public eye, is that somebody's going to find something to complain about for anything.
Well, I mean, one way you could look at that is if you're making someone complain about, then maybe you're doing the right thing. Yeah, and
it's funny because the movie got sort of similar like complaints, not about going to bed without dinner, but about how this is a children's book, and quite frankly, the movie is not a children's movie. In fact, there's a great quote that I don't think I saved anywhere, but Spike Jonze basically said it's a movie about children, but not a children's movie. Like, it's a movie that is about the life and struggles of a child, but not necessarily but he very much wanted this movie to be loved by families, by kids, but a lot of adults feel like the movie is too scary or too dark or way too emotionally deep for children. I'd kind of I don't know that I would show it to a toddler, but if I become a dad, I might show it to my 10-year-old, and I don't think a kid would love the movie though that much, So
you never know.
Yeah, I don't know. But all right, cool. So I got that one right, and guess what? You get a true or false for number 2 as well. Number 2, true or false? Industrial Light and Magic, as you know, is ILM. That's the George Lucas company, created the animatronic suits used in Where the Wild Things Are. Is that true or false?
Oh.
Do you have a visual of the characters from the movie at the very least in your head?
Maybe a little, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's partially because of Sindex's art style that it reminds me more of like Henson Company
Mm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with false.
You're choosing false. ILM created the animatronic suits using Where the Wild Things Are. You're saying that's false.
Yes.
That is correct. And you should get bonus points because you're absolutely right. Jim Henson Creature Shop is the one that created the creatures. So one of the most fascinating things about this movie, and one of the reasons that I love it, even though it's now, 12, 13 years old, they had plenty of technology to do this entire thing CGI. They very much could have, but Spike Jonze that was not his vision. These are actual creatures and people in suits. Now, what they did do is they used CGI for most of the talking and the expressions. And I think my opinion is that they put these together perfectly because they very much are real things. But it was just to get the true emotion of the characters, the CGI had to be called in. And I think that's part of why I love this movie so much too, is that seeing movies from the 80s and 90s where Jim Henson was creating actual things on the screen that you were seeing and could touch. I love that. And I just dislike CGI so much. It's come a long way, so obviously it does a great job. But yeah, these were actual suits created by the Jim Henson Company. There was an 8-month process of building the suits. One of the very cool things, these characters were like 12 feet tall. They were enormous. And so you could find some really interesting facts about these suits. Inside of the head, they put these little 3-inch square black and white TV monitors so that the actors inside could see what the cameras were filming, so they could see what their movements looked like, and they could get to know them better. So there you go. All right. Nice job, John. Very impressive that you got that so right. So we're both 1 for 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah, go us. All right, number 3 about the book.
What literary award, which I think the book has won multiple awards, but what literary award has it earned? The Nobel Prize in Literature, the Newbery Award, the Caldecott Medal, or the Pulitzer Prize?
I've never heard of the Caldecott Medal, but I have heard of a Nobel Prize in Literature. I have heard of a Newbery Award, and I have heard of a Pulitzer Prize. And I think the Newbery is for children's book literature, but I could be way off on that. I will admit that is the one that is jumping out at me, so as not to overthink it, I'm just going to choose the Newbery Award.
The Newbery Award?
Yeah, I'm picking it. Oh, my goodness.
It's the Caldecott.
Oh, it's the one I don't know. What is the Caldecott?
It's very similar to the Newbery. And if memory serves, the Newbery is the American Library or the American Library Association or whatever. It's their award for Children's Book of the Year.
Okay, it is. All right.
The Caldecott is very similar in that it is picture book for children.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because obviously not all children's books are going to have illustrations.
Right.
That's an appropriate award for them to win because those images are the creativity behind them so amazing. All right, cool. So I got that incorrect. I'm 1. Oh my gosh, I'm 1 for 3. I'm falling behind quick. You're 1 for 2. Let's see if you can take the lead here on number 3. It's a music question. The singer of which band wrote and performed the soundtrack for Where the Wild Things Are? Is it Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Florence and the Machine, Paramore, or Vampire Weekend?
Florence and the Machine is kind of sticking out to me on that one.
Do you have any memory of the songs or the soundtrack?
No, I don't listen to radio very often, so if it was on the radio, I didn't hear it. But for some reason, Florence and the Machine still is a fairly big band, and they were definitely big then.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with Florence and the Machine.
Florence and the Machine is your choice?
Yep.
John, that is incorrect. I'm sorry. It is the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Karen O is the lead singer of Yeah Yeah Yeahs. I deliberately put 3 out of the 4 bands with female lead singers just in case you had any memory of there being, which maybe you did, and maybe that's why Florence popped out. I also realized I could have thrown in Arcade Fire as a choice to throw some people off who did have a memory of this, because I did work in radio during this time, and I worked in alternative radio, so I was very plugged into the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and Arcade Fire and that kind of scene. Arcade Fire, their song Wake Up was used in the trailer very popularly. But Karen O did all of the music for that you hear in the movie. And in fact, one of the reasons I love it is because there's a lot of just kind of shouting like, yeah, woo. And just like childlike shouting that works in the songs, but then also plays in the movie and just kind of comes out of nowhere and almost kind of it's like jarring, but works so well. Spike Jonze wanted simple melodies that were emotionally complex, something that both kids and adults would appreciate, because I think that sums up the movie well. It's an emotionally complex movie. Right. Both the kids and adults would appreciate it. And so like a lot of the music is very playful, very fun, very lighthearted, but also has a certain complexity to it. Yeah. All right. Well, at least we're both 1 for 3. So let's see who can do worse.
Yep. So, we've talked about the creatures a little bit, and I mentioned how they were drawn off of caricatures of his aunts and uncles, but they aren't what they were originally going to be.
Okay.
So what were the creatures originally going to be?
Okay.
Horses, dragons, cats, or dogs?
Dragons is definitely the front runner here, but it would be very interesting to learn if for some reason he was going to be going to an island full of cats or something. But between horses, dragons, cats, and dogs, I got to choose dragons and see what happens. Let's go with dragons. Dang it, you got me.
Horses.
It is horses. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, tell me about this.
It was going to be a land of wild horses, and he realized shortly before he started doing all the drawing that he didn't know how to draw horses. and so his editor suggested just being more ambiguous and drawing wild things.
Wow.
So that's where he used the caricatures.
That makes me wonder if he had a working title before that and it was going to be Where the Horses Are. And then said, well, why don't you draw wild things instead? And then it was, but I would guess the title maybe came later. But literally that was a suggestion. Maybe just try drawing wild things.
Yeah.
I love that. But that is hilarious that it could have been horses. That reminds me of I won't name her name in case there was a girl that I went to elementary school with who I'll never forget in 5th grade. She loved drawing horses and she was trying to sell pictures of her horse drawings to us, and God bless her, she was an early entrepreneur, but there was not enough amount of money you could have paid me to make me buy one of her horse drawings. Okay, so I'm now 1 for 4. Oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. Well, let's see if you can go for 1 for 4 as well. So as I've mentioned several times, Spike Jonze is the director of the movie. Yep. I don't know how familiar you are with Spike Jonze. We're about to find out. Which of the following movies was not directed by Spike Jonze, Where the Wild Things Are director? Is it Being John Malkovich, Her, Adaptation, or Jackass Forever?
I believe Jackass Forever, unless I am incredibly wrong. But that's the newest one, right?
That's the newest one, correct.
I'm just going to go with Jackass Forever.
Jackass Forever was not directed by Spike Jonze, you say, John. That is... correct. Yay. I kind of threw this in. To be honest, I thought that he directed all the Jackass movies. Do you know that he's very tied into the Jackass?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so he is a writer and a producer on all of the Jackass movies. And I thought that he directed it, but then that makes sense. Jeff Tremaine, who has a lot of camera time as well, is the director of Jackass. Spike Jonze did direct Being John Malkovich, which I've never seen, and now I 100%
That's a weird movie.
Yeah, I've heard it's weird, and I really like the weirdness that Spike Jonze brings to his movies, so I need to watch it. Have you seen Her?
I haven't seen Her, but I know about Her. And same with the Adaptation. I haven't seen it either, but knowing Spike Jonze and knowing the films that I do know that were his, I figured the first 3 were all his type of movies. Yeah.
I love Her. The movie Her, I think it did a great, and it almost was before its time. It was really predicting what we're sort of already in, which is being attached to technology. Basically, the main character, who is, I keep wanting to say Jude Law, Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah. Joaquin Phoenix is living in the not too distant future and basically is talking to his phone, and people start to form relationships with their phones, with the AI that's in their phones. And I loved it. But he did not direct the Jackass movies, but he is a major player in them. But this man has an incredible resume of directing, especially with music videos. I'm just going to read through some of the, he's directed videos for Weezer, Sonic Youth, Dinosaur Jr., REM, Ween, Bjork, The Chemical Brothers, Daft Punk, Beastie Boys. He most recently directed a 2020 movie about the Beastie Boys.
You should watch that.
That's the one that's on Apple TV Plus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do have that now, so I need to. I guess what I've realized is how big of a fan I am of Spike Jonze without even having really known it. And I know that the Jackass movies are silly, but there's a lot of incredible creativity that goes into them, and the fact that he can sort of be this like off the wall sort of dude, but also this crazily intensely creative guy for these movies like Where the Wild Things Are and Being John Malkovich. In fact, John, I think we should do an episode about our favorite directors of movies. Even though I'm not sure I would choose Spike Jonze, I might choose Quentin Tarantino. That's a whole nother topic, but that might be a fun path to go down. So anyways, there's me rambling on about Spike Jonze. All right, so you got that one right. You're 2 for 4. I'm 1 for 4, so I really need to get this one right if I want a chance of anything here.
Yeah.
All right. Number 5 on the book.
What year was the opera created?
Wow.
2000, 1975, 2011, or 1983?
You could have just put in true or false there was an opera created. I had no idea there was an opera. Oh my gosh. An opera, not even like a musical. I mean, I guess an opera,
no.
But like, yeah, it's a full-on opera. 2000, 1975, 2011, 1983. I have a feeling because this isn't something that's in my knowledge bank, which most operas aren't anyways, that it's not a recent thing. Even 2000 seems like I was 15 at that time. I might have heard about it. I'm going to guess it's one of these older ones, either 75 or 83, both well into the book's creation. I'm going to choose 1983 because that's the year my brother Robert, whose love I'm still trying to earn, was born. So I'm going to say 1983. Yeah, Robert!
Yep, that's when it was initially kind of put out there. But it actually, New York City Opera revived it in April of 2011.
Cool.
And so that's why I put that in there. It's a one-act thing with 9 scenes. The opera, which Maurice Sendak helped with, was where he actually gave names to the Wild Things, and they were his relatives' names, kind of the ones that they were based off of to begin with. Tzippi, Tzippy, Moish, Aaron, Emil, and Bernard.
No way. Those are very Jewish names, aren't they? Some of them.
So I mean, not knowing if Spike Jonze knew about the opera or not, it's kind of interesting that the names aren't similar, really.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he did because he worked hand in hand with Maurice Sendak.
That's true.
In the movie. So I bet there was a conversation about whether to have it be those characters. But I'll read you the characters' names for the movie though, because they're much simpler names. They are Carol, KW is one of the names. Carol, KW, Douglas, Ira, Judith, Alexander, and the Bull. The Bull is just known as the Bull. I also love that Carol is a male. That's James Gandolfini's character. He's sort of the main wild thing. And Carol, it can be a quote unquote boy or girl name, but it's more commonly known as a female name in our society. And so I love that that's a male character. So I missed that one, right?
No,
wait.
You got it right.
Oh yeah, I got it right. So we have a chance at a tie.
Yeah.
I'm 2 for 5. You're 2 for 4 going into the last question. Again, you haven't seen this movie, so I'll tell you, some of it is shot in a studio, but the majority of it is shot out in nature, and that was a very deliberate choice. There are some stunning shots. So which of the following locations was the film shot at? Was it in Australia, Hawaii, Argentina, or New Zealand?
I'm kind of torn between Hawaii and New Zealand because both places are used quite heavily for filming. And I kind of vaguely remember scenes from the trailer. I think I'm going to go with New Zealand just because it has a lot more different ecosystems than Hawaii does.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So you're going with it? New Zealand?
Yep.
John, you are incorrect, which means we tied.
We did.
You're very close. Australia. You're very close regionally. In fact, Hawaii, Argentina, and New Zealand were all considered for locations, but Australia is what they went with. Their sort of main hub was Melbourne, Melbourne, and all of the locations that they shot out, or most of them anyways, were relatively close by, within like an hour and a half drive. In this movie, you see sand dunes, you see cliffs, you see forests, you see ocean. It's really pretty stunning, visually stunning. Every time you see a boat that's on choppy waters, it's actually in choppy water. You know, it would have been much easier to film a lot of these things in a studio, but they felt that having that real feel and actually feeling nature as though it was one of the characters was a big part of what they wanted. In fact, there's a quote that said Spike always wanted it to be like a nature film, as if we were filming the creatures in the wild and stalking them, which is very cool because you do get a lot of that. Like you're kind of behind a tree and you're looking. Yeah, they really capitalized on the nature that Australia had to offer, and really the elements come through in the movie for sure.
Cool.
So we tied. We're 2 for 5. We both sort of kind of know stuff about the movie and the book. But as you've heard throughout the episode, I get very excited talking about this. I just watched the movie 2 days ago, and I kind of want to go back and watch it again just because it moves. And John, if you have HBO Max, by the way, it is on there. I thought 100% I was going to have to pay for it and rent it on Amazon or whatever. But yeah, it's on HBO Max. So
cool. I
would recommend it. Let me know what you think. All right. Well, add a tally to the tie, and we'll be back next week with some more fun. And in the meantime, go read and watch Where the Wild Things Are, and maybe do both simultaneously and let us know how that works out.
It's the Lack of Genius podcast in your ear holes at last. They don't know they're Mars from Venus, that's why it's the Lack of Genius podcast.